Hi, Kenneth. Good morning.
Hi, Ramya. Very good morning to you.
So long time and very nice to have you here in the session. So it's an honor to have you, Kenneth, with us today. And as OKR being an open source, everyone has their own methodologies to adopt. So we just wanted to bounce around. We've been talking to experts across the globes, and obviously, I would definitely not, let you go there. So you're the first one I wanted to talk to. So I have a few questions which I wanted to share it with you, and then probably we can discuss on that.
Yep.
And to start with, when we start OKR, as Datalligence is an OKR software platform, software comes next. Before that, we start the planning session, OKR planning session. So is there anything that, you call it a best practice or something that we really need to follow while doing the planning session?
Absolutely. I think for any organization that's wanting to use OKRs to help them, the first thing to do is ask themselves why. And why OKRs? Now, OKRs have helped organizations in more ways than one. They've helped organizations in getting radical focus around the key goals. They have helped organizations in aligning all their resources, especially its people and the work towards those goals. It has helped organizations create radical transparency around how they are performing. It has helped organizations become more metric and data focused along the entire path. And very importantly, it has increased the level of performance and the speed of performance. Because based on the goals that you set, if your goals are stretched and ambitious, and if you're getting everybody to contribute to that social process, then it increases it. Now, based on all that I've just said, the first question that I have to companies is why OKRs? And that's the first thing. Now, they will not give me the answer to all these. They will not say all these points that I've just said. They might give a few. Then the moment they give a few, for example, most companies ask, oh, why OKRs? And then they will start by saying, my CEO has went to a forum or he has read the book by John Doerr, or she has gone ahead and connected with other founders and they have told. So all of it comes from what other people are telling them. So then my first point in the entire planning is to make them own the reason why they want to do OKRs rather than just because somebody else has told them to do it. So including the CEO, my first point is that once you've got that very clear on what are the opportunities and problems that the organization has and how can OKRs help, we create that kind of a match between the problems and opportunities of an organization and what OKRs can do. So it becomes very clear. And we state that OKRs is not a magic bullet. So it can help you in what you want to help, what you want it to help you with. So that's the first part of the planning. The second part of the planning is then understanding where do we begin with OKRs. Okay. The first thing that we look at is the organization strategy. Is the organization strategy, purpose, mission, vision ready and articulated? Right? If it's not, then that's one of the things that we get time and invest in. So we as coaches, we help organizations in doing that. We help even companies who have not created a go-to-market strategy or still looking for a product market fit. We help them as well in understanding to what extent can they do OKRs. So that's the second part, the strategy. The third part is how often. How often do you want to do OKRs? Do you want to do it annually? Do you want to do it quarterly? It's about that. It's understanding that. And through the process is understanding the appetite for the discipline that's going to come. Because setting OKRs is only 20% of the job. 80% is the discipline that goes in it. And that's where, good softwares come into use. But softwares can only do that much. You still need that rigor displayed by every single individual, including the managers, to step up and then to show up and make sure that the data is entered into the system, conversations are happening, the feedback is happening, coaching is happening, recognition is happening. So for us to understand what is the culture like for the organization and the appetite. And if we find that the culture is ready or not ready, we still go ahead and we let organizations know that there will be a learning curve for a company. So if the culture is right, the learning curve is smaller, is shorter. If the culture is probably still very traditional, old school, conservative, hierarchical, then we say it's going to take a little bit of time, including some more effort in going and making sure that the employees, the leaders, the managers are equipped with the right set of skills and behavior. So that's where we have another set of interventions that we at OKR International also help with. So that's one of the steps. And I think the other steps is then creating the nice ecosystem for OKRs to flourish. So one is making sure that we have right teams doing OKRs first. So we either start from the leadership level, or N-1, the L2 levels, we take care also as well, and they're the first teams. Or we take a particular team that we believe is can champion OKRs for the entire organization. Usually it's a product or engineering team, an R&D team, or maybe even a sales team. So it depends. It depends on the gumption and the appetite of that team. So we choose teams or we choose levels to what extent we want to go. If it's a small organization, we can do a big bang rollout also as well. So we either plan it out. And that includes training. Very importantly, the first step is making sure everybody is trained through a uniform source on OKRs. Otherwise, there are multiple sources of OKRs. As you said, open source. So if you send people to study by themselves, they will study by themselves, they'll come in, and there will be a complete, hodgepodge of their understanding of OKR. So we give them a unified source of learning, they learn it, and then we are ready to then get into the setting switch. So this is the initial piece. And the last piece in this is create internal champions. So we select internal champions or a center of excellence that usually comes from the CEO or the chief of staff, which is multiple teams will show a representative about of who can be an OKR champion or part of the OKR Center of Excellence. So I know it's I've put in a whole lot right now, but to unpack it takes even more longer.
I know. I mean, beautifully said, the 3 steps, right? I mean, right from where we answering our whys, and then understanding exactly what are these steps to it, and understanding the internal champions as well. Yeah. Very nicely put. Everything is done neatly. I think we wouldn't have much of delay in execution. I was about to ask you the same question. If there is a structure in place, it is easy. You can just go there and get it rolled out. But if there is no structure in place, yeah, obviously the rollout, actually it takes more than a cadence to actually get the right rollout happen. Maybe even 6 months for some organizations. So that we've also come through that. Very beautifully said, Kenneth. Thank you very much. Now that having you said that, selecting particular team to execute, right? Say, for example, I'm selecting product team or a design team who are also cross-functionally aligned. So that actually serves my purpose as well. So in that case, there are metrics probably they might have not come across. As OKRs, we also try to tell people to identify metrics from their own teams. But when I'm talking about to a creative team, right? They say, it doesn't happen that way. We still guide them, but what is your experience has been? How you've guided a creative team or a development team to get the OKRs done?
Yeah, I think there are 3 things that I'd like to share here. I think the first thing is a lot of coaching. So teams like this, especially the leaders, need to have a very learning mindset that existing metrics may not serve the purpose of long-term of some other OKR. So say, for example, you're asking a particular, say, an R&D team, and this is usually with R&D teams or design teams or things like that, who don't have metrics or tangible metrics. It's usually about features that they will release or products that they will. It's more about, definition of done versus, definition of done and the metrics that will impact. So there's a lot of coaching. So I'll give you an example of an R&D team that we were working with. They had this challenge of being able to show an impact or an outcome metrics on the various experiments that they run to create products in the future. Now, their job is much more longer. It's not like you can just create experiments and they produce goods. So they produce consumable goods. So their experiments will take sometimes months, sometimes quarters. So it doesn't happen over a few days like an IT or a technology, function. So in a team like that, the big question was, how do I write an outcome for experiments that I don't know what's going to happen with? So in that case, the idea was, don't sweat it out that much. And the question, there's a lot of coaching questions then. We ask, what is it that you're really expecting to happen with the R&D team? Let's go with the objective first. And then came an objective that we want to be a globally recognized center of innovation. That became an objective. Then I say, all right, the question is, how do you know you're becoming a globally recognized center of innovation? They said, when our products are adopted from this center into other geographies and other companies come for us, then ask question, how do you measure that? Then they thought for a bit and they said, yeah, at least, 2 products or 3 products that we design is adopted. I said, there goes your first KR.
Very true.
Then the question comes, but I don't know how to do it for the quarter. I said, don't worry about the quarter right now. Let's think about what you want to achieve. So similarly, we had a lot of in-depth conversations, and through those in-depth conversations, we were able to create, annual OKRs. We were able to create quarter OKRs. Quarter OKRs had more of lead OKRs. They had more of output KRs inserted in. For example, run 10 experiments. Out of 10 experiments, 5 to reach to a particular level, 3 to get sign off. They were able to create matrices, they were able to create outcomes, and it proved to be really powerful. So it was all, we came back to the objective. I said, don't worry about the KRs and the metrics. Think about what you want to achieve, and then the metrics will emerge themselves. So that's the first thing, coaching, a lot of coaching. The second part in it is making sure you're able to maintain and look outside for a lot of those metrics as well. Look outside your organization. What are other people doing? So create a nice compendium and allow for metrics to emerge. That's the second piece that is there. So study, learn. We tell the teams, go out there. Tell us, how do other companies measure success? How do other R&D teams, how do other design teams do it? Learn, study, and come back and tell us. You don't need to have an answer right now, but go back, take a week and study. The third piece in all of this, I love this, is called milestone KRs. The milestone KRs are what? They're also called baselining KRs. If I don't have a metric, you give yourself that time to find that milestone. So that becomes the first initiative in the metric. I'll add a fourth piece to this as well. The fourth piece in this is avoid the Cobra effect. Now, what's the Cobra effect? It means that when you fall in love with a metric so much that it actually becomes, it negatively impacts you than positively impacts you. I'll give you a story. So a long time back, when the British were here in India, in Delhi, they were deeply impacted by snakes and cobras that were surrounding the Delhi area. So they put out a bounty for all people, saying that if you catch a cobra and come, we will give you some money. So very enterprising individuals went out, caught cobras, came. It worked for some time. The population of cobras reduced. So they worked. However, after some time, those very same enterprising individuals thought that if I'm getting money out of this, so why don't I really make this into a business? And people started breeding cobras, right? And they started breeding cobras and started getting it to the British, saying, now pay us the money, and the British was paying more and more money till they figure out, oh my God, this is now a scam. This is no longer, the right thing to do. And they stopped it. And when they stopped it, these businesses had to also stop. They ended up releasing more cobras than they originally were. Now, the model of the story is, don't fall in love with a metric or a measure so much that you forget that there might be balancing factors as well that you have to keep in mind: the quality, the safety. So look for metrics. So it's not just about producing more and more experiments versus knowing, will those experiments help us, gain market share? Will those experiments help us in maintaining quality, loyalty of customers? You got to answer those questions as well at the same time.
Perfectly. Very, very nice. The story was very interesting, though. I mean, not falling in love with the KR, right? I mean, that's definitely something, because the entire framework is more agile. So if you're really stuck with some key results and you're really going to carry it over, cadence to cadence is not really going to help us.
Yeah.
Definitely, yes. And while experimenting for teams like design and R&D, it's going to, we really have to let go of some metrics and adopt anything that comes, gives us an outcome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Very nicely said, Kenneth. The next one, to discuss about, I wanted to know a lot of people who wanted to really experiment OKRs, because obviously the kind of growth it drives, the kind of promising atmosphere it brings, and the collaboration it brings to the team. And as you have said, I've heard it here, I've heard it there, and we really wanted to do, someone try to copy a Google way and try to do it. Someone are really very careful about implementing OKRs. They want to do some pilot projects. Let me test the waters first and understand whether it is going on well or not going on well. But I have my own ideas and thoughts about it, but I really wanted to hear it from you.
See, it's quite fine to experiment with OKRs. It's completely fine. OKRs themselves are experimentative. So if an organization says, I want to experiment with OKRs, well and good. Then I would say then experiment it in the best place possible. And when I say best place possible, means teams or levels or business units which would benefit from doing OKRs. So choose it wisely. Choose good leaders who are in it. Make sure they're invested in that experiment. They want the experiment to work, and they're ready to also flex their ways of working to make sure OKR succeed. So you got to make sure you're creating the right ecosystem for it. It's not just saying, oh, I heard OKRs, let me experiment it. It doesn't work that way. You got to make sure that you're investing in that pilot teams or those, projects that you're working with. In my experience, I have seen a lot of, it comes back to making sure you have executive sponsorship at the end of the day. So I'll come back to the beginning point that I said, you've got to make sure that the C levels and all of them, the founders, the board, recognize that there is a lot of benefit to gain from OKRs. The other intangible benefit that organizations don't seem to recognize earlier on is that it changes the way of working of an organization from siloed, non-collaborative workspaces to very collaborative workspaces. So if there's any winning case for OKRs is this, more than achieving results or achieving goals, this is something that most organizations struggle with. Yeah. Now, HR teams come and say that we are struggling with performance management. Our people are not serious about performance management. Now, here's another win. In OKRs, it makes you serious, right? So if you're going to link it to performance management later on OKRs or not link it to performance management later on, it brings in a seriousness about talking about performance, which used to be reserved only for those quarterly ratings or those mid-year reviews or year-end reviews. Now those conversations are going to be almost on a daily, weekly basis with the right stakeholders, not just between you and your manager, but with the right stakeholders.
Very true. Very rightly said. Investing on right people obviously would bring in the success to the pilot team, because sometimes what happens, we still have doubt why the why is not clear while we are implementing. Yeah. So the pilot project also doesn't take off because your why is still not clear while you're starting. So as you said, that buy-in, everything is in place. I think definitely that will work out to be a success story.
And give the pilot teams at least 3 quarters. Don't shut off a pilot just because it's not working in the first. Give 4 quarters till you're able to. Maybe at the same time, when you're starting one pilot, 1 quarter later, you start another pilot. Try some other stuff. Try another way to do OKRs there. Okay. There are always ways you can mend, and you can do those experiments really well.
Awesome. Fantastic. So the last question has been my favorite question all along. I come from a HR background, so I really wanted to ask you this. I see a lot of people, getting benefits out of the program that you have been offering, right? The certification programs. I've seen a lot of our own fraternity, a lot of takeaways from our own fraternity. So how can HR be an enabler? How they can promote OKRs inside the system? Because when I see champions around, I see very less of HR OKR champions. So how we can actually HR be an enablers there?
I think, the last statement is very important. You see less of HR OKR champions, and I think that's the right thing. Mm-hmm. I think we should let that continue. Mm-hmm. HR should not be OKR champions.
Very right.
HR members should be the custodians of the cultural change that needs to happen, and focus on making sure that you're enabling leaders, enabling team members go through that change, while at the same time equipping them with the changing culture that's required. For example, how do I help managers become more coach-like? How do I help team members focus more on feed forward rather than feedback? How do I encourage a culture of collaboration? That's what HR needs to be focusing on, more than anything else. Whereas let OKRs be run by the business, by, when I say business, I mean by the profit centers such as sales, or maybe by the input centers such as technology or product, or even the chief of staff. I think that office is the best place for it. In fact, currently in our programs, we're seeing more participation. Almost 50 to 60% of our participants are either project management specialists and more are agile coaches. So we see a lot of agile coaches coming in. We see a lot of CXOs coming in, which are non-HR. HR just contributes to around 15 to 20% of our entire participant base. It will only increase because it's a good thing to learn for an HR team member, because then he or she can introduce it in their organization. Once they know the entire OKR piece well, they can help curate it really well. Currently, I'm working with a very large organization where the HR team approached me and told me, can you please get OKRs going? My next question was, is your CEO clear on the OKRs? And the answer was no. I said, then I think the first thing we need to do is get the CEO on board. If HR wants to do OKRs, then the next thing that will happen is it'll be the same thing, old wine in a new bottle. HR will be busy sending updates. Have you done your check-in? Have you done your conversation? Will be policing instead of the organization or the rest of the organization owning the process. So I always say, let HR not own the OKR process. Let them take care of the cultural change, the equipping of managers, and making sure, there is that right culture that is set up for OKRs over the period of time for that to work.
Awesome. Perfect. I mean, as you rightly said, we've also been seeing a lot of people, wherever we implement OKRs along with the coaching and also with the software, we see more project teams. The Scrum Masters are themselves OKR coaches in most of the places that we work. And we've seen product teams, development team are very eager to actually take this project up, and they really wanted to head. And we've really seen a lot of success stories there. Yep. And to mention, there are also few success stories when HR is a coach. I've seen teams roll out in just 1 quarter. The entire rollout has happened, and they really successfully led. I think it depends, how do you really see the process, and how the your CEO is on board or not. If it answers all the questions, I think they can lead. But nevertheless, we have seen a lot of both the cases.
I'd like to add to that. In fact, some of our projects that we have done OKR implementation with have had OKR champions as HR members. They have done a tremendous job. The reason they have done a tremendous job is because these HR folk in these organizations are not just transactional HR folk. They are true business partners. So they understand the business in and out. So a HR person should be able to know what is the sales of the day. If they know the sales of the day, they should know what are the market conditions like. If the HR person can answer these questions, then they can make good business partners, because then they can consult, they can coach, and the business will listen to the HR people. But if the HR team members are very transactional HR members, but the only thing they're focusing on is attrition numbers, hiring, the compliances, performance management, and all they're doing is policing around it, then they cannot be business partners. But this is a topic for another day, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, thank you very much. It's been definitely, the strategic HRs have been really of great, understanding, and their implementation has been really wonderful all along. So that brings us to an end. And amazing discussing with you, Kenneth. Insightful, and I think we definitely should catch up sometime on live. With a lot of people who asked me, do you know Kenneth? Would you like to bring him on a session? I want to ask him a lot of questions. So I want to arrange a live session for you. Probably we can catch up in the live session whenever possible for you.
Sure. More than happy to help, talk more about OKRs and what it can do for organizations. Very passionate about it. We at OKR International, Nikhil and I have spent a lot of time in making sure that, the world comes to know what OKRs is, and our investment in our time and resources is to make sure that more organizations know of it, they're able to use it, experiment with it, and find success. So yeah, I would love to partake of take part in any kind of such evangelizing sessions on OKRs.
Awesome. I'll catch you up soon then.
All right, cheers.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.